Okay, I'd like to welcome all to this evening's regular board meeting of the Lakeview Public Schools Board of Education. Today, Tuesday, October 18, 2025, 7:30 p.m. at the boardroom at the Weed Educational Campus. I'd like to call the attention of the board to the minutes of the regular meeting of September 16, 2025.
Move for approval.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Madam Secretary, have we any public communication this evening?
Yes, Mr. President, we do. We have Ms. Rachel Pennerwood, who is here to discuss the Science Olympiad. The Board of Education provides for public communication on their agenda so the members of the community may come and make a statement to the board. Statements to the board can be on any school district topic and should be no more than 3 minutes in length. Public communication is not a question and answer in session. Individual board members generally will not respond to comments provided during public communication. As board secretary, I will keep time and try to warn you when you have 10 seconds left out of the 3 minutes. Thank you to everyone who has signed up to speak this evening.
Okay.
I'm here tonight to ask the district leadership for help in expanding the number of Science Olympiad teams available to Lakeview Public Schools. For those who are unfamiliar with it, Science Olympiad is a national nonprofit organization committed to engaging students in the STEM fields. They do this by hosting competitive science-based events at the regional, state, and national levels. Student teams are led by parent or teacher coaches to study in depth on specific scientific topics. After several months of preparation, they come together to compete against other students from other schools. It is a unique and rewarding activity in which parents can have a direct hand in their children's learning, growth, and success. In past years, every school in Lakeview District had a Science Olympiad team available for students to join, from elementary all the way to the high school. However, Princeton Elementary is now the only school in the district with an active team. Over the past 5 years, I've had the privilege to work on the Princeton team with 2 of my students. For 3 of those years, I was also the head coach. In speaking with other district parents about how much we enjoyed this activity, many of them wondered why a team wasn't available at their own school. It's a shame that only a fraction of our district students have the chance to take part in such a wonderful, unique activity which inspires future leaders and innovators in the STEM fields. With the support of the district, I think we can see this change. I believe the ways in which the district could best help this happen are as follows. 1, we could spread the word. We could provide a facility for hosting a district-wide Science Olympiad open house night so that families who are interested can learn more about it and make a well-informed decision about whether they would like to participate. Only a couple of hours in one of the elementary school gyms would be sufficient for an event like this. 2, we could promote leadership. A school cannot have a team without a head coach who organizes and communicates with the students and parents. The need for a head coach position could be posted on the district website, and the position could be highlighted in the newsletters for the other 3 elementary buildings. Science Olympiad head coach positions are already budgeted for on our Schedule B, so this would not add to the district budget at all. Not so long ago, I myself was wondering how well I could handle the role of leading a Science Olympiad team, so I would be happy to offer my support to any parent or teacher who is willing to take on the task. 3, a basic budget for the teams. There are some expenses involved in running a Science Olympiad team, such as an annual registration fee and a few $100s which are spent on supplies each year. Teams could fundraise or ask the PTO for help, but a modest budget to begin with would be extremely valuable, especially for new teams. An established team like Princeton has many supplies which can be reused each year, but a new team may need a bit more help to get started. Lastly, I would like to be allowed to take on the position of head coach and start a team at Jefferson Middle School. This way, students and families who have participated in elementary school can continue on at the secondary level if they wish. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter, and I think by working together we can see Science Olympiad teams in every building in the district.
Okay. Madam Secretary, do we have any further public communication?
Yes, we have one more, Mr. Joe Langlet, regarding PA system at Lakeview.
Hello. Go ahead.
Yes.
My name is Joseph Milet. I live right down the street here, third house, section 21, 305 Yale. And I guess you're my neighbor. We've been residents here since 1981, same home. Before then, the house was in the family. I have 4 brothers, 3 three brother-in-laws who graduated from Lakeview, and four, my wife and those three who graduated from Wheaton School. So we've been around quite a long time. We're used to, it's kind of difficult getting used to live next to a football field at times. It seems since you've done the, redoing the field and the press box and everything, your new sound system at times can be rather loud, especially when it's right over the fence. I don't want you to get me wrong, we enjoyed living next to the field. It's been fun. And back in the 80s, they used to have battle of the bands, and they had no electricity on the field, and they would throw an extension cord over it and plug it into the house that they used. So we've really enjoyed living there. But sometimes when the announcers, when there's something exciting happens, it's like they're all trying out for ESPN or something. Their emotions get really loud, and the windows in the house rattle at times. I expect, you live next to a football field, you're going to have the crowd cheering and all that. But that's not it. It's the extra time. We just had a new neighbor move in, and the first thing she said to me was, "Why is it so loud at night?" And lately, there was, I went on the weekends too. You have Green Hornet football. I think it's Saturday mornings. For Sundays, it switches. But it can be pretty loud pretty early. We go to varsity, junior varsity football, same thing with soccer. And the newest is band practice. It was just the day before yesterday. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed the music. But the band teacher is on the PA system, instructing the students, which is about 4 times louder than the band. We have friends who live over on...
We have 10 seconds left.
Yeah. And you can go 3-4 streets down and you can hear the PA system. So I know we're going to hear stuff, but if they could just be aware of the levels. I mean, everybody in that stadium can hear. But now it's loud. The other topic I wanted to briefly bring up was traffic on Yale can be very challenging at times. You have the school in this building that everybody parks up and down Yale to let their kids off and on. It's difficult getting in and out. We have the Dairy Queen here, which offers its traffic situation. And then all day long with Lakeview dropping off and picking up at Little Mac. Little Mac and at Manhattan. There's cars everywhere.
Thank you, sir. That is, we're at 4 minutes. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Have we any further public communication this evening?
Nope, that is, Mr. President.
Great, thank you. All right, Board of Education Administration comments. I have a couple things. First off, football season has gotten off to a great start. The kids had an awesome game last Friday night, defeating Grosse Pointe South at Grosse Pointe South by a field goal with 2 seconds left in the game, which was pretty exciting since they were undefeated, and everybody looks out at Grosse Pointe being a powerhouse, so it was a great event for those kids. Moving on to something else, the question I have for administration, I keep bringing this up a lot over the years, and it's the properties. Making sure that the gates are closed. You got Ardmore, we got Princeton. I've made comments in the past about the west side of Princeton where you can drive a car down the whole side of the building back to the playground area where that should be restricted for vehicular traffic. I know we're waiting for signs to go up. The signs are up. We had a lot of construction going on over the years. I think that needs to be looked at as far as securing these properties better moving forward. And to that point regarding the properties, oftentimes when you drive by, they seem to be dirty. What I mean by that, there's debris around. The kids get done with a football game. You know, I've had a board member contact me regarding the trash not being cleaned out even the next day until late that following day. You know, I think, I don't know if this is a situation with the janitorial service or not, but I think they need to step it up because we expect more than what we're seeing. That goes with the cleaning of the properties on the exterior as well, obviously, and then the securing of these properties because, you know, we spend a lot of money in enhancements for these properties, and I just don't want to make it an enabling situation for kids to do stupid things. One of the things I've noticed is the gates on the west side of the football complex, the double gates there, wide open at night. Kids can take a car, drive a car, and tear up that football field in seconds. And I think we need to call the people out that need to be responsible for securing these properties at nighttime for us and make sure that we don't set ourselves up for some sort of a failure. And then, you know, Science Olympiad, this has been discussed amongst board members in the recent past as well, especially following the awards night last spring at the high school where Princeton was the only school, and questions came up as to why the only school. Well, the problem we're finding is that people, as we see with PTOs, they don't want to volunteer their time. And we do need volunteers for these things to make them successful. And that's what the PTOs, PTAs, whatever you want to call them, Science Olympiad, and some of these additional functions that would be great to have participation in, but without ownership by parents as well as staff. I'm sure if parents were to go up to staff or the principals at the building and say, hey, we have this great idea, we got 4 people here that want to participate and make this happen, I'm sure the principals could talk it up with their staff and say, we've got interest, what can we do about it? But to this point, it seems like that it falls on deaf ears. So what I would suggest, if you have the power to do that, you know, talk to some of your fellow parents and say, hey, get the word out there, whether it's through the PTOs where they can share this information out with other parents. So, you know, it's a two-way street. We need help with the parents, as has been the case forever with Science Olympiad. I know I was very much involved in it when my kids were in school, and it was a ball. It was a blast to go see these kids at all the various competitions, or going out in the football field with the kids and helping them with their tasks at hand in training and helping them get better. So, I mean, there's reward for that. So, you know, that's my 2 cents worth on that. Any other comments from the board?
I just want to agree with the Science Olympiad, and I think sometimes it can be intimidating. People think, I don't know what to do, but just to become volunteering and then just to be there. And I do want to thank you, Mr. President, about bringing up the facilities. Just I was on a walk on a Sunday, I'm like, oh man, by Lakeview High School, and it was just overflowing. So I agree with you. So I appreciate your persistence in that. But again, yeah, the back to the Science Olympiad, it's anybody can do it. Really, it's just getting people to participate. And you're right. You get a lot more out of it than you expect internally. So it's a great opportunity for anyone.
Any other comments?
Just, I agree with promoting the Science Olympiad and trying to increase support. I think if I was in your shoes and I knew Princeton was a solid place, I would reach out to the principals at the other school to see if they had someone in mind that might help you be a lead at the other school and just baby steps, do a few things at a time. So, but thank you for being so passionate and involved. It's wonderful.
Any other comments? Ms. Taylor?
Yeah, I would say I think Science Olympiad is amazing. My daughter did it 2 years over at Princeton with the EA2, and I know that as parents, if you had a kid, you had to volunteer, and maybe that's why it was successful. I did not know anything about the weather. I probably still don't. But we do talk every now and then, like, what kind of cloud is that? And then I think we had simple machines as well, which was fun. But you are right. It's just a matter of getting out there, experiencing things with your child, and being humble about what you know and what you don't know, and learning with them. So, but I think it is extremely important, and I think it should be seen as a club, as we do fund some of these clubs, and I think it's essential. I think a STEM program is fantastic, so, I would support it 100%.
Mr. Muscally?
To echo your sentiments about the buildings, I completely agree. If you drive around at night, it's also getting darker. We have lights out all around the outside of the buildings. If you drive around into the back where the athletes leave late practice, I'd hate to have something happen back there. There's no lights back there. The outside of the high school, most of the lights are out. The ones that uplight the cafeteria, there's probably half of them are out. I don't know if it's a Barton Mallow thing. I don't know if something was shut off, something was turned off, something was cut, but we need to have the outside of the buildings. They need to be illuminated for safety, security, and to stop other things from happening, people going on and doing things to the buildings. So I agree with the debris, but we're asking the community for more money. We got to keep the appearance of the upkeeps of the buildings 150% proper.
Absolutely. Any other comments? To the end about, getting participation by parents, I know it's a tall ask these days, but as we all know, the kids get more involved in social media things and the craziness that brings forward. Me personally, I'm not a social media fan for multiple reasons, but, getting the parents involved with their kids in something extra, whether it's Science Olympiad or some other thing going on at the schools, is awesome. Get them involved, and if you can help, I know many families have both mothers and fathers working, or a single parent situation. I know it can be difficult, but for those areas where we can get some help in parental participation, that would be awesome. And the district would welcome it with open arms. But as we're finding out with a lot of the jobs we have here for lunch aides and things like that, it's difficult finding people for those spots as well, because people are just too conflicted with other things going on. So, again, thank you for bringing this forward this evening. Any other comments from the board side? No? Administration?
I want to, make sure when we talk about a weekend, especially at the high school, we have our events Friday night. Green Hornets are there on Saturday. The idea that something can look bad when it's just finished with Green Hornets, that's probably worse than our Friday night, frankly, because they're all bringing water bottles and snack bags and whatever else, right? We have some fencing. I know Sean had some fencing plans set up. We have, there's a variety of places where not all the things you're noting, other things that you're not noting that we have noted to close off, because they were closed off previously, but when we did the bond work, those weren't spec'd out to be replaced necessarily. And a lot of times, especially the high school, the last several weeks, we're shutting power off all the time on the pool, working on that mechanical room, as you know. And sometimes, what they do, I can't speak for every one of their situations, but they're in the boiler room and they're in the mechanical room at the pool, and they're throwing circuits. It could be as simple as a circuit when you talk about multiple lamps being out. It's probably not burned out bulb, multiple lamps. It's probably a circuit that somebody pulled in the last, couple of months. On a very different note, the idea that volunteers are participating, engaged in a lot of things. There are a lot of volunteers engaged in a lot of things. I know Isabella's going to probably give us a report that's going to highlight some of those. But those families are, we appreciate those families that do get engaged. And sometimes you'll have during the day, sometimes after school, sometimes in the evenings. And staff members that are participating in some ways. I think the extracurricular activities, particularly at the elementary, they fell down and fell apart during COVID, as many other things did, right? And slowly, we've been rebuilding some of those activities, the PTO activities related, the things that are at school, even during the day, like fun runs that are just, just been happening. I'm sure she's going to make reference to a lot of those. And I think our folks, multiple principals are in the audience. They heard what you offered, and I'm sure they're going to think about that and figure out which person in their buildings maybe is the person to go to, right, to tap, whether it be a teacher or parent or a couple of different staff and parents. Very separately, now this is not going to be a pleasant statement, we have a state budget finally. Our state leadership failed us in June by missing their deadline of July 1. Local schools were operating since July 1 with no solid information about our budgets and the operational funding and the situation with grants, at risk, free lunch or breakfast. None of those things were identified until just a week ago or so. And we're not even sure about some of the language that's in this budget, the way it's written, that it isn't clear exactly what is intended and how we have to behave in terms of accepting some of those things. So the lawyers are going to make money on this in the end because there's going to be a lot of things that have to be worked out. They were at a shutdown position September 30. That's failing to do your job, period. And it's one of the biggest things you're supposed to be doing. One of the first things you're supposed to be doing as a legislator. And so they went and did cram sessions from like the 28th of September to October 1st. And real early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, we had the House and Senate voting. You can't tell me that they threw, 100 pages together and all of those, 180 legislators or whatever read all of that at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, I won't buy it. The governor signed the budget on October 7th. A full week past the constitutional fiscal responsibility that they have. That's not acceptable. It's a terrible example for our families and our kids and citizens. There are a few good things, probably, and we'll see how that all unfolds in the next couple of months as Michigan Department of Ed and Treasury have to get out information to guide us on what we have to do to accept these funds or how it's going to be distributed through our state aid status reports. But 85% of our money is state-controlled. It's not local. On a more positive note, we have a bond election. It's already underway. Lots of absentee ballots are out and returned. Some of our staff who live in the district have gotten their absentee ballots and returned them. We've been out communicating with our public to make sure that people are aware of this vote and what it's about. The polls will obviously be open on November 4th, which is that Tuesday. I've been visiting our parent groups and city council and different places to let people know and have question and answer opportunities. Yard signs, social media posts, all those types of things are happening. Literature drops, our marquee signs, notice to voters to let them know we need you to vote. Whether you vote yes or no, the more vote there is, the more accurate the support or not support is, and we can move forward with that decision come November 5th. And I just want to reiterate the volunteers and the activities that we've already seen as well as going to sure report on. It takes that special effort and that willingness to be involved and sometimes take grief from people because they complain about how something was done. And everybody that's been a volunteer knows that. And I see lots of faces in the audience who had their own kids volunteer. They volunteered for their kids, and some of them are our staff, some of them are our parents. So I appreciate all those people who do get involved and participate. And I'll leave it at that.
Any other comments from administration?
I'd like to make one if I can, since we're going through the audit today. I just wanted to take the opportunity, I know two of them are here, and like a typical accountants, they're in the back row, just to thank our wonderful finance team for all the work they do on our audit year over year. Not only just the audit, but also kind of thank them for what they do on a day-to-day basis to go and help us be a service department for the community and then the rest of the faculty. So I just wanted to, show my appreciation to them.
Wave, Tony and Melissa.
Any other comments? All right. Thank you. Next, we have the student representative report. Mrs. Rexroad, good evening.
morning and full day students learned about fire safety and had the opportunity to ask questions and even explore the inside of the fire truck. It was an exciting experience for everyone. Additionally, firefighter Collins, one of their parents, will be visiting tomorrow afternoon to share more about fire safety with some of the afternoon students. This Friday evening, they are thrilled to host the second annual Trunk or Treat family event for students and their families. Attendees can look forward to a petting zoo, games, cider and donuts, a spooky dance party, a food truck, and of course, trunk or treating. They anticipate a fantastic turnout and can't wait to see students in their costumes. Your teachers are currently wrapping up fall testing by completing the Briggs Screener for all students. This assessment provides valuable baseline data on each student's progress as they begin the school year. The Briggs Screener evaluates cognitive, language, and physical development, as well as self-help skills and social-emotional skills. Parents will receive this information during fall parent-teacher conferences next week. It's a wonderful opportunity for teachers and parents to discuss each child's preschool experience, strengths, and areas for growth. We will also be hosting the Scholastic Book Fair in our gym during this time. Naturally, the preschoolers are buzzing with excitement for Halloween. They are planning a spirit week filled with Halloween-themed activities, including class parties and glow dance parties in the gym, among other fun events. As you can see, October is a busy but exciting month for preschool. September and October are always busy months around Princeton. On Friday, October 3rd, they enjoyed their annual fun run at Princeton. It was a beautiful day and the students had a lot of fun. This year, Princeton had 34 community and corporate sponsors, and all in all, raised over $77,000. They are grateful for the support and look forward to a great year at Princeton. School pictures were taken last week, and it was so nice to see all the students dressed in their Sunday best. The yearbook should be sharper than ever this year. This Saturday, they will be hosting their annual Fall Fun Fest at Princeton from 1 to 4 p.m. Next week, they will be having parent-teacher conferences. They look forward to meeting with their families and hope to see everyone there. Lastly, Princeton has kicked off the new school year for the Scouts, Green Team, and the Watchdog programs, and look forward to another great year of activities and partnerships. At Greenwood, students in different grade levels are immersed in literature, reading Ivy and Bean, Mr. Popper's Penguins, Henry and Mudge, Fish in a Tree, and The Strong Right Arm in different grades throughout the building. Attendance heroes are off to a great start, as one student per class that was here every day, ready and on time the previous week, is recognized with a certificate and snack from the snack cart each Monday. Students also had a wonderful time at the Sand Art and Open Gym for September's PBIS experience, and are excited for October's Lego building and bingo party. They had their fun run on October 3rd and changed the theme from a color run to a superhero dash. Students had a blast ordering from the ice cream truck, dressing as superheroes, racing through the bounce house, and running the course along with the obstacles. They are truly off to a great start. Art Hour held an all-school assembly last week where they recognized students with perfect attendance for September and celebrated one student from each classroom who went above and beyond in demonstrating this month's trait of cooperation. These students received Husky of the Month certificates and enjoyed lunch with Mr. Hahn and Miss Morissette. At the same assembly, they launched their October focus on being a good friend, encouraging students to practice kindness and inclusion all across school settings. The Husky hike was a huge success. Students had a great time, and together they met their fundraising goal of $30,000, which will directly support classrooms, events, and enrichment opportunities. The annual Fall Festival returns this Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. Families will enjoy trunk or treat, crafts, food trucks, and more. Harmon celebrated their annual Hawk Walk on Friday, October 3rd. Scholars enjoyed some stations, a bounce house, Ace the Hawk, and watching Mrs. Coon's classroom, the class who raised the most money, throw water balloons at Mr. Weedle. Harmon PTO is sponsoring Savvy Sliders Day tomorrow, October 15th. Just mention Harmon and a portion of your purchase comes back to the Harmon PTO. Harmon is hosting their annual trunk or treat this Friday, and they are excited to celebrate some fun costumes with their families. They will have a DJ, bounce house, cider and donuts, just to mention a few things. Elementary parent-teacher conferences will take place next week. They are looking forward to seeing all the parents and provide an update on achievements, closing academic goals, and specific plans to grow all scholars throughout the year. Harmon scholars have been hard at work with their reading, math, science, and social studies IXL practice. In September, they completed nearly 70,000 questions, and October is looking even stronger. There are currently over 52,000 questions already answered. Lastly, 5th grade teacher Mr. Perino is still working on his personal goal of chipping a golf ball into a bucket on his garage. He is on day 23 of his own personal challenge, modeling for their scholars through the second step SEL programming. We are hoping to celebrate him soon on achieving his goal. Harmon celebrated 79 scholars with perfect attendance for the month of September, and are looking forward to celebrating more from October. This fall at JMS is going well. 6th grade camp is in 2 weeks, and the middle school students and high school counselors are looking forward to making memories at Camp Confident. JMS will be holding parent-teacher conferences this week and look forward to meeting with parents and families. The JMS PTO color run raised over $15,000. The JMS PTO is very happy about the turnout of students and parents for the very first color run of JMS. They are also excited to be able to plan future events for all JMS students. JMS staff and students are continuing to work hard toward further progress as we wrap up the last weeks of quarter one. Homecoming at Lakeview was a success. Many people assisted with the homecoming festivities to make it a memorable night for the Husky Nation. The dance had over 720 students attend. The MTSS committee and PBIS committee have started meeting. They are looking at ways to improve important aspects of student life at LHS, ranging from our Don't Not Be Late, parties and absences the first hour, competition, and various attendance calls for students who have had multiple absences. We will continue to monitor all aspects of student life at LHS to improve all outcomes. Parent-teacher conferences were held last week. LHS had a better than expected turnout for the in-person sessions. It was good to see and connect with all the parents. Our annual Powder Puff game was held last night between the class of 2026 and the class of 2027. The seniors won 21-0. Thank you to the senior parent committee for their assistance in putting on this event, along with class advisors. The LHS band, choir, and orchestra will be having concerts on October 22nd and 23rd in the Shawbin Auditorium. The end of the first hard marking is October 24th. Thank you.
Lots of things going on once again. Thank you very much. And again, to Mr. Paulson's point, and as you alluded to, there's a lot of parental involvement. I don't want to undermine any of that. But, we want to do more. We need more help. So, again, thank you for your contribution and all the people that helped make it happen, parents, staff, fellow students, the whole Lakeview community. So, well done. Any questions from the board for our student rep this evening? Awesome. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. All right, moving on, perfect attendance recognition.
The following personnel are being recognized for perfect attendance during the 24-25 school year. If they would come forward when I call their name. We first have Alyssa Calderon. She doesn't have to go far here.
Congratulations.
Andrew Hahn, I saw him back there. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All this stuff.
Denise Hogan. Good job, Denise. Tammy Smith. Carl Paulson. And we have a number of other staff members who weren't able to be here this evening, but we will make sure we get their certificates and their token to them.
Great. Congratulations again to all those staff that achieved perfect attendance this year. Well done. All right, now we move on to the agenda. Item G, 2024-2025 audit presentation from Yo and Yo.
Jennifer Watkins is here from Yo and Yo to share with the board some things that she shared with our finance subcommittee last week. Jennifer?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
On the very,
Is it? Okay.
yeah, it should be on.
I talked loud. But you guys all have a hard copy of the presentation PowerPoint. We did go over in detail the actual report at finance last week. As I go through, if you guys have questions, feel free to let me know. If you have questions after the fact, anytime, you can always reach out to me. My information in this PowerPoint, but also you can ask Eric to get my information. But I'm always happy to take any questions. First thing is a little bit about myself. As Jennifer Watkins, I'm the partner on your audit. Next year will be actually 20 years doing Michigan schools. I also sit on the committees at the Michigan Department of Ed, so I kind of see where the accounting manual and audit manual that you guys have to live by is being made and contribute to that. The next slide talks a little bit about the audit procedures. I won't read them all to you, but it kind of gives an idea of the whole process that we go through. I will point out kind of at the end, it talks about the compliance testing. So as school districts, you guys have regular compliance testing from the federal government. You have ISD compliance rules and regulations and those MDE rules and regulations. And we're checking all of those compliance requirements. At the bottom there, it says the MDE and ISD and FAC submission. So we submit your audit report to you. For state law, it is due to Michigan Department of Ed by November 1st. This year, November 3rd with the weekend. But we do not have a compliance supplement yet from the federal government. And that is for your single audit, basically. So that's your federal dollars audit. MDE did put out communication last week that they will accept just your financial audit, so your regular larger audit, prior to November 1st. And we will be submitting that on time, and then we'll follow up with a single audit once we get that compliance supplement from the federal government. But that's statewide, USA-wide, it's not just Lakeview.
Is that dependent on the shutdown going on right now with the federal government?
So it was already late before the shutdown, but I don't think that's helping at all.
Oh, it's like our state government then. Okay, thanks.
We're kind of just at the mercy of getting that right now. And usually it comes out in May, so it's very late. The next slide goes over your audit results, so kind of an overall picture of the entire audit. You did receive an unmodified opinion on your audit, which is what you want. That's the highest level of assurance we can get. It's also known as like a clean opinion. Internal control evaluations there, we did have one finding for budget overages, which we did go through at finance. We had no other significant deficiencies. And over the single audit, we had no findings, no material weaknesses, no non-compliance, no non-compliance of any kind or fraud or abuse with the single audit. We did audit child nutrition, the food service fund, food service program for the single audit piece, and you were considered a low risk auditee, which means you have to audit 20% of your federal dollars. The next page of your presentation goes over your governance letter. So your audit typically comes with your financial statements, a single audit, which is your federal dollars, and then a governance letter. This goes over some of the significant risks that we assess prior to the audit. We sit down, assess those risks, and assess what we're going to do during the audit process to kind of combat those risks. You had management override of controls, improper revenue recognition, and then this year we had a new standard that was very significant to all schools, which was the implementation of GASB 101 related to compensated absences. GASB, which is kind of the standard score that we deal with for governmental entities, including school districts, changed how they reported and accrued those compensated absences. That did not affect your fund level statements, it's only the district-wide full accrual statements that it affected. Other than that, we also put in that letter if we had disagreements with management or difficulties no past adjustments or significant audit adjustments. So overall, a clean audit report and a clean letter.
Jennifer, I want to make sure they understand what you mean when you said that significant risks package of bullets there. Those are things you looked at,
Yeah.
not that were a concern for ours.
Correct. So the first two, we actually have at all school districts, and management overrides is kind of an audit item, so if somebody can maybe make a journal entry without someone looking at it, we look at all of those things. And it's more of done in the planning portion of the audit, and then when we're doing procedures, we just make sure, maybe we do an extra procedure in these areas to make sure everything was correct, and we had no issues. The next page is the balance sheet, and these are your fund level statements, and these are snippets right from your audit report. So this year you had two major funds, the general fund and the 2022 capital projects or bond fund, and then everything else is considered a non-major governmental fund and is included in that column to the second to the right. Things like the food service fund, student activities, debt funds, it's all accumulated there. Overall, the district had total assets of $29.3 million, and this is a snapshot as of June 30th, 2025. So things such as July and August state aid are accrued back. You can see that under the general fund column at the $9.8 million in any outstanding receivables for grants. And then overall, other items that were significant in your assets were basically cash and investments, both in general funds and the other funds. Overall liabilities for the district in total, and this is for fund level statements, is $15.1 million. And again, items are accrued back to June 30th. So summer pay, including benefits, and also there was an unearned revenue, which is that last item under liabilities, and that's for revenue received by the district but not yet spent. So those restricted state grants, like at risk, if you've received it but haven't spent it all yet, it gets recorded as unearned. Because any restricted grant, whether it's federal or state, you have to have $1 out to have $1 in. They net zero. Next page is your overall fund balances, and we'll go over the general fund balance a little bit more later in the presentation, but for the district in total, your total fund balance is $14.2 million. Non-major, you can see, and the 2022 capital project fund is all restricted or committed for a purpose. So those funds and those fund balances and those funds have to be used for that specific purpose. The next few slides are over just the general, never mind, one more slide with all the funds. So this one shows your revenues, including other sources, things like transfers is included in those other sources and other uses, and then total expenditures and total change. So for all the governmental funds, you had $73.5 million in revenue, expenditures at $88.7 million, and overall there was a change in fund balance of a decrease of $15.2 million. You can see the majority of that decrease was made up of spending down that bond fund. Now the next few pages are over just your general fund. So this next page is your general fund comparison to budget. This is a snippet of information summarized in section 5 in your financial statement. So overall, you had a final budget for revenue of $16.5 million. You came in a little bit higher at $16.9 million, which is less than a 1% difference. Expenditures, you had a final budget of $16.2 million. You came in higher at $64.2 million, and that was just under 3% variance higher for expenditures. Overall, your final budget was a change in fund balance of $101,000 increase, and you ended up at a negative $1.2 million for general fund. The next few charts kind of show the same information but laid out a little bit differently. This kind of goes to show what was mentioned earlier during comments, like your sources of revenue. And even though it's broke out with local there, that is property tax revenue that goes into your foundation allowance, because this is just general fund. So overall, kind of your state revenue, which includes some restricted revenue, if you add in that local property tax revenue. The next page is your expenditures, and again, kind of show those expenditures broke out by category and overall. Obviously, if you're in the business of people, and those benefits we all know are increasing, so overall, 81% is salaries and benefits of your general fund.
And remember, the biggest chunk of that is the state retirement system that we receive money per pupil, but send back to the state Office of Retirement Services or Michigan Public School Employees Retirement System, because the accounting rules require the state to give us the money and then send it back to them. And in some cases, we're also contributing part of our foundation allowance to that system. Charter schools, which have the same amount per pupil, I like to point this out anytime I get a chance, they have the same amount per pupil, but they do not have any MIPSR's retirement cost obligations. So they have $10,000 something a kid to spend on programming. We really have $8,000 something a kid to spend on programming because it's that much that goes back to the retirement system. It's messed up, folks.
Have you talked about
Sorry.
this? Have you brought this up with our state reps?
Of course, for years.
You know, what's their,
Oh, that doesn't seem right. And? Sorry, Jennifer, go on.
The next slide goes over enrollment, so there's a couple, just on your enrollment trends, this goes forward, kind of nice to see back from where things were and where they went. So last year for 2025, your enrollment is at 4,131 students. And you can see it's down slightly from the last 2 years, but still up from 2022. And the next slide is your general fund balance, so all the way back from 2016, to kind of see some history of that fund balance and where it was, to where it is today at 2025. And the difference between that green line, that's all fund balance, and the blue line is anything unassigned. So we assign if, like for example, the 25-26 original budget had an excess of expenditures, so that would be assigned. If there's things like prepays or inventory, typically it's pretty close. I'm assuming in 2022 that was a budget that was assigned for that amount. And the next slide is your general fund balance numbers that we look at each year. So the first one there, the top line, fund balance as a percent of unrestricted revenues, and we added that probably several years ago, I would say a few years, but several years ago, when many districts were kind of hitting financial distress, the state uses that figure as their test to see if you're in financial distress, and if you fall below 5%, sometimes they require more reporting from you. In 2025, we were at 19.25%, down from last year of 22.26%, and usually they kind of are comparable, the 2% from prior year to current year, but that unrestricted revenues is higher because it doesn't take into account federal dollars. And the next number is the percent of fund balance of current operating expenditures. This year it's at 15.08%, last year at 17.91%. And the next slide, again, I won't read everything to you, just will go over some challenges. I know it was talked about the food service fund balance. Last year you actually had excess, and then I know there was worries that Michigan didn't know what they were going to do with that. This year you didn't have excess fund balance. That's another compliance requirement that we test. But I know that's an issue with many schools right now, amongst others. And from the accounting ways, we have more new standards up and coming that will be changing the look of your financial statements a little bit, adding some items to your management discussion and analysis, some extra budgetary items, so it just keeps your business office on their toes and new things up and coming, but we will, assist them with that process. And other than that, I'm happy to take any questions, and to thank you for having me, and thanks to Eric and his team
Any questions from the board? Nope.
I have a comment if I can. So I kind of wanted to take a chance real quick to just address the budget to actual variance. So while we did receive a clean, unmodified audit opinion, which means the auditors found that our financials are accurate and fairly represented in all material respects, they did identify a budget compliance under the Michigan Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act. So this type of finding does not reflect any financial misstatements or misuse of funds, but rather the actual expenditures in one or more of the functional areas exceed the budget amounts formally approved by the board at our final budget meeting. So in essence, our spending was properly recorded and supported, but our final budget amendments did not fully align with those actual expenditures. We take this finding very seriously and view it as an opportunity to strengthen our internal budget and monitoring process. We're going to use tools by conducting more mid-year budget reviews to identify potential overages earlier. We're going to enhance some of our analytical tools and continue to maintain strong communication amongst the business office, other departments, and other administrators. So I just wanted to emphasize that our audit comments commended our district for overall financial health, transparency, and cooperation during the audit process. But this finding simply highlights a procedural compliance area where we can improve upon. So I didn't want to not address that, so.
And Ms. Watkins, you're in concurrence with that statement?
Yeah. And
Perfect.
I did point out too at finance that even though the budget variance is very small, that UBAA, the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act that he referenced, the rule is you cannot technically overspend by $1 that you budgeted. So we have in audit world materiality and numbers that level, and so it became, to the level of finding of a non-compliance for the report. But the actual rule is $1. So a lot of times, I think budgets maybe budget a little bit high on expenditures because they're kind of combating that. And it's hard when you don't know some of those things. Like, I was at a board meeting last night and we discussed that you don't know kind of your categoricals for state aid sometimes till February, maybe April. So there's a lot of things going on, but yeah, we've talked about it and I think we're already, headed in the right direction.
Cool. Constantly a moving target, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
I would just like to make a comment that I appreciate our administrative staff working together to come up with a corrective action plan so we can improve things for the future.
And Mr. Flynn, thank you for owning it and bringing it to the attention and with the corrective action plan and moving this thing forward, so appreciate that.
And I just, as an aside, I think our last, it was the same finding, variance finding was probably 2011, maybe 12, in my world and tenure remembering. So it's not a very common thing for us. You say it's common around the state, but it's not a common thing for us. So thank you.
And yes, Ms. Watkins, thank you for coming out this evening and spending your time with us. Mr. Lynn, to you and your team, thank you for all your due diligence in getting us to this point and bringing the success that we have at this point. So to that end, I don't think we have any more questions at this point.
All right, thank you guys. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Representatives from Yo & Yo, a public accounting firm, have completed an independent audit of the district's financial records for the 24-25 fiscal year. A finance subcommittee reviewed the audit process, financial statements, and a single audit report during their meeting on October 8th, 2025. Lakeview received an unqualified or a clean opinion, the highest possible outcome. Key highlights of the financial statements in the audit for the 24-25 fiscal years include general fund included revenue of $62.8 million and expenditures of $62.7 million, not including a planned transfer to the capital projects fund of $1.5 million. The general fund closed the year with a healthy fund balance of $9.5 million, which can help the district through difficult financial times and uncertainty. In 24-25, the district nearly completed spending all of the funds generated from the 2019 bond election. The 2020 and 2022 bond funds are now exhausted, and the savings the district transferred to our internal capital projects fund is providing the dollars necessary to complete the auditorium and pool work at Lakeview High School, as well as replace needed technology. Lakeview Public Schools continues to experience rising inflationary pressure and increased costs for utilities, supplies, employee benefits, which present ongoing challenges. In response, Lakeview Public Schools has adopted a proactive financial strategy that includes a combination of budget efficiency measures, prudent use of reserves, and continued advocacy for increased state and federal support. Lakeview Public Schools has maintained consistent year-over-year student enrollment, reflecting stable interest in Lakeview and the strong community support. Staffing and program quality, competitive compensation, and operational efficiencies enable Lakeview Public Schools to concentrate on programming and resources that promote student academic success and support, attracting families from both within the city of St. Clair Shores and beyond its borders. Careful planning by the board and leadership has enabled Lakeview Public Schools to support the Student Technology One-on-One Initiative, address immediate technology needs while covering essential repairs and other site improvements and projects. While much of the capital project fund was committed to completion of bond initiative projects in 24-25, as noted earlier, some funds remain for future technology replacements and anticipated projects that are not covered by future bonds, ensuring long-term sustainability and continued investment in the district's infrastructure. This yielded an ending capital projects balance of $1.6 million. Other district funds were stable as well. Food service had a planned net decrease of $555,000. The Student Activity Fund had a net increase in its fund balance, closing the year with a total of about $507,000. Debt Service Fund had a net decrease, closing the year with a total fund balance of $1.49 million. Earlier this evening, Jennifer Watkins, of Yo and Yo, represented a summary of the audit report and financial statements to the Board of Education and addressed any questions accordingly. And the administration now recommends that the board accept the 24-25 financial statement audit, supplemental information and financial statements, and the single audit report for the federal awards as presented.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education accept the financial statements, audit report, and supplemental information to the financial statements and the single audit report for the federal awards for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, as presented.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Notwithstanding the federal government situation, will there be any follow-up that we'll be getting to this from the Fed side that's incomplete because of the shutdown, or are we done at this point?
We will end up getting what you would term a more bound final report when they have that federal compliance, outcome or whatever done. And how long is the federal government going to be shut down?
Yeah, who knows?
So she told us that at finance that, they can't really complete the final document. The state's going to take the financial statements, because that's what the state wants on our timeline, November 1. But she made that comment about the federal compliance requirement. No.
It's almost an internal control for the audit firm, too, so that's a certain order. They put things in a certain way. They got to present things and transmit things, too. So our financials in general will not change, but they need that in order to submit it. So they need to be able to check a box and then be able to submit the Fed side.
Cool.
And so the single audit is what they're talking about in particular, but we were a low audit where they only had to do 20% of the,
Single.
yeah.
Cool. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Ms. Taylor?
I just have a question, maybe Carl can answer, I don't know if you know. But if they dismantle the Department of Education, what severity does that end up in our lap?
I'm not as worried about dismantling the Department of Ed as I am about whether they dismantle any of the funding sources. Now, that's not, according to, those that seem to know better than us, that doesn't seem like what the Trump administration wants to do. And of course, you're going to have a lot of, House and Senate members who don't want to say, hey, cut title money, because that's not title money, federal food money, some special ed funding, and some transportation funding is where the federal government connects to us. And it's a single-digit percentage of funds for 100% of our budget. But you don't want to see 2% or 3% disappear just because somebody decides they wanted to make it disappear. Whether they pass that through the U.S. Department of Ed or Treasury or Health and Human Services or anybody else, it doesn't make a difference to us as long as the pathway of the money hits the books. I don't care if it comes from Department Ed or anywhere else, as long as it hits the books.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks again, Eric. Okay, moving on to general, item A, 2024-2025 audit, no, that's what we just went through. Jeez, we don't want to do that again. All right, moving on to personnel. Item A, changes in personnel.
Tonight, administration is bringing forward the following changes in personnel since the last presentation to the Board of Education on September 16th. New hires, Barbara Neubauer, District Food Service Assistant, Luke Bacon, Auditorium Assistant Co-op, Hannah Aloff, Auditorium Assistant Co-op, Brian Kinley, Auditorium Assistant Co-op. Resignations, John Wispigan, Jefferson Middle School Lunch Aide, and Linda LaGrasso Green, Wheat Preschool Co-op. Schedule B, new coach and sponsor for the current school year, Kelly Leitz, Lakeview High School girls 9th grade basketball coach. And Schedule B, returning coach and sponsors as listed.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the changes in personnel as presented.
Support. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Mr. Asia. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to B, I'm sorry.
I have people.
Oh, you do, I'm sorry.
Thank
Here I
you.
go again.
I actually don't have new hires from tonight. I have new hires that we actually hired last month, but because the hire was so close to the board meeting, we weren't able to have those people come. So I wanted them to come tonight so that you could meet them, see their faces, and they could get a chance to see you as well. So we have Jacob Jones, who we hired as our school psychologist, our most recent one. He's been with us and really doing a great job hit the ground running. So Jacob is here, and we're happy to have him on our team. So welcome aboard, Jason. Jacob. And then
Jacob got a real initiation because he was in with Megan and Devin right next to my office. And there was something crazy going on with the state, and I had to, blurt out some things that were probably on the edge. And I think he was kind of going,
Oh.
what is that? Right?
Well, you haven't seen anything yet.
Jacob, you didn't know you were going to have to do services on our staff, not just our kids. And our other, one of our other hires from most recently is Sarah Malby. Sarah is a face around the district you've seen. She was first a parent. She's been working in our buildings and subbing positions, both day-to-day and long-term. And so we said, guess what? You know what? Let's make this official. And we hired Sarah as our district permanent sub for our secondary. So now she's joining us, and she's here every day, moving around. So we are glad to have you in official capacity. And our other new hire we have Kelly Chalawa, and I'm not sure that I ever say your name right, so say it for me, please. Okay. Well, K instead of the CH. All right. So we hired Kelly. She is here, and she is one of our newest elementary interventionists. And so we're pleased to have her. And once again, she's in there already making a difference with kids. So welcome. And that would be all of them. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, welcome to the new hires this evening, plus those that weren't in attendance this evening. So congratulations and welcome aboard. Moving on to item B, Secretary's Principal Central Office exempt and non-affiliated wage improvements.
The district recognizes the importance of providing equitable wage enhancements for all employee groups and maintaining pay outcomes that are consistent between the various employee groups. The secretaries, principals, and central office groups proactively negotiated collective bargaining agreements and contracts ahead of other employee groups. This has resulted in those employee groups not receiving wage enhancements for the 25-26 school year, consistent with some of the other employee union groups. The newly adopted 2025 through 2028 teachers contract identified a 4% on schedule with steps wage increase for the 25-26, effective to the beginning of the contract year. This includes all teachers, ancillary teaching staff, psychologists, speech pathologists, counselors, social workers, behavioral specialists, reading and math specialists, coaches, and sponsors. In addition, the current food service contract provides for a 4% on schedule and steps wage enhancement effective to the beginning of their contract year that will be implemented after tonight's audit presentation. The paraprofessional group will begin negotiations on October 20th for their 25-26 wage opener. Therefore, administration brought the topic of wage equity for all employee groups to the Personnel Subcommittee at their September 16th meeting and received support to move forward with wage opener negotiations with the secretary and principals unions and bring to the full board for consideration. After having done so, administration is bringing forward a recommendation to approve wage enhancements consistent with those approved in the Teachers 25-28 collective bargaining agreement for these employee groups. Suspension of the wage formula structure for the 25-26 school year and provide a 4% on schedule and steps effective to the start of the contract year for the secretaries, principals, central office exempt, and non-affiliated employees. And suspension of the wage formula structure for the 26-27 school year and provide a 2% on schedule and steps effective to the start of the contract year and an additional 1% on schedule retroactive to the start of the contract year if the student FTE on the December 26 state aid status report is greater than the student FTE on the December 25 state aid status report. This wage enhancement would be for the principals, central office exempt, and non-affiliated employees. The secretary's CBA expires on June 30th, 2026, and will negotiate wages for the 26-27 school year as part of their successor collective bargaining agreement.
Mr. President, I recommend that the Lakeview Board of Education approve and recommend wage improvements consistent with the teacher's contract for secretaries, principals, central office exempt, and non-affiliated employees as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Martin, support by Ms. Stanton. Discussion on the motion.
I would just like to thank Ms. Van Peeren for working so diligently and preparing all the information for us. I know it's pretty confusing and a huge task to take on, and we really appreciate it.
So theoretically, this is a Me Too type situation.
It is.
What are the chances of us falling into the same type of situations down the rails here, 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now when things are a little bit different? Is this Me Too thing going to carry on for others as well?
Well, we would have contracts that would be negotiated. So we currently are in a wage opener this year for the paraprofessionals. That's why they're not listed on here, because they're actively going to be negotiating that contract that I would assume is going to be a multi-year. The teachers have things that would be already through the 2028. So then we would end up carrying through their principals would also be at the conclusion of their expiration of their contract negotiating. So typically, we end up having things that are closer together and are falling in an equitable manner. But the way the timing went on this, we had groups that were significantly ahead of the other, and the teacher group, which is our largest group, as you know.
Okay. Any other comments?
I was just wondering, how does this affect us financially when we need this decision from before to after? Like, what is the difference? So maybe people
and the public understand, just trying to match other school districts, trying to retain our teachers, and what we have to put in out of our budget. Obviously, 4% on employee expenses, maybe you could explain that.
So for-
we have an understanding.
For many people, they don't realize, we typically have a wage formula that triggers the amount of the raise by the amount of foundation amounts we have coming in and the number of students that we enroll. And that triggers and is a safety mechanism that provides that we have the money to pay the wage actions that are identified. We have, in this last year, we had no wage in the last school year. So we really have been flat for a year and a half in that piece. And so the teacher salary ended up having, starting with the implementation. We already have an idea when we were negotiating that of where we thought we were coming in with kids and with foundation to be able to pay for that. However, we didn't step totally away from that wage formula. That will kick back in that third year and will apply to all the other employee groups as well. So then it does keep us in a place that allows us to manage costs by the revenue that we have coming in.
And if you want to think about the two big pots that the state provides us, the first big pot is the student foundation allowance, which is probably 80%. Well, she might have had it on a slide in there. In that 4.6% increase to that dollar per pupil, I think it was 4.6, right? And then in addition to that, some of our costs for staff are built into special education funding and in at-risk funding. Not all of those funds are used for staffing, but a big portion of them are. And the at-risk portion was increased by 25% in this budget. And then special ed was increased a smaller amount. But those are all the three significant pots that are tied to staffing. So when we looked at this, and we sort of had that sense when they were going through the bargaining process with the teachers, we sort of had that sense because the House, Senate, and Governor, even though they hadn't decided, they all had 4% or more on the student foundation allowance as their initial proposals. So we were reasonably confident, based on tax collections that we've been watching, that the money would be there for them to finally end up with something of that nature, somewhere in that ballpark, which is what happened. So we should be able to afford to do these things. 8 years out, I'm not even going to guess, right? But even 2 years out is, right?
And Ms. Taylor, I didn't respond to the part that you talked about in respect to other districts. It is extremely important for us to continue to have a pay structure and a salary grid that is very competitive to attract, but also to retain our people. And I will say that the number of openings that we have is very small compared to our counterpart districts around, and you can contribute that directly to salary and benefits contracts that we have for our employees.
Thank you.
All right, and then speaking to the affordability question, do we have a dollar value associated with this at this point?
I don't have one tonight. Eric and I can provide that.
Approximate.
Approximate, so last year we finished at 29.8. If you assumed that everybody got a step at 2.5% and then a 4% increase, and then you take the wage trigger, assuming the fund balance is going to go down underneath that threshold, so it'd be 1% versus 2. From our budget, I mean, it cost over year about 2.2 million. The net change, because we didn't budget for a full year of all the groups at this rate, we'd have to increase the budget by about 1.8. But my guess is there's some things in there that would trim it down. So conservatively, I would say above the budget, about 1.8.
1.8 million? Okay. Any other questions?
I just wanted the public to understand how much it costs to run a school and the importance of being compared to other districts. I can't speak highly enough of this district and the kids and the the amazing staff we have, the school leadership. And, I mean, I just want to get to that bond. I just want the public to understand that this is not us just throwing away money. This is us building this community, making it a strong community right from, 4 years, actually 3 years old and up. So it is really, really important. I know that these are hard times for everyone, but this doesn't change anyone's tax level the way it is right now.
All right, any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item C, letters of agreement regarding fund balance reward stipends.
Tonight, administration seeks the board's authorization to work with our employee union groups to establish one-year letter of agreements as it relates to specific language related to what we commonly refer to as the fund balance stipend. Master agreements and employee contracts include this language to encourage employees to be frugal in spending district funds so that when the general fund balance reaches certain levels, an off-schedule stipend payment is made as recognition of this effort. The financial stability of the district is then part of everyone's responsibility. This past fiscal year included a combination of unusual circumstances that led to the general fund balance falling slightly below the second threshold identified in the employees' contracts. Administration believes keeping the stipend level at level 2 in the contracts, leading to a 2% off-schedule payout, is advantageous for employee morale and retention. Each of the master agreements would need a one-year LOA agreed to by the units to alter this contract language for this year only and move forward in the manner that the current contract language intended. Administration seeks the board's approval to engage our union groups in this process.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the administration's request to develop a one-year letter of agreement with all employee groups related to the fund balance stipend, keeping the payment at the level 2 in the current collective bargaining agreements.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Mr. Asha. Discussion on the topic. Can you tell me what the delta is between the 1 point and 2 points?
The 2 points, I think, worked out to about 600,000, so,
Half that.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, curriculum, auditorium, and facility rental forms and rates.
Administration is recommending an update to Shaublin Auditorium and facility rental forms and rates, last revised in July 2023. A team met to discuss what current options needed to be amended and also reviewed improvements and upgrades for future rentals. Forms now include new rental spaces made available through the recent bond updates and additions, as well as current salaries, including FICA and retirement rates. The recommended new Shaublin Auditorium and facility rental rates forms are attached and would become effective 10/15/25.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the updated auditorium and facility rental rates forms effective October 15, 2025.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. That's it?
No, 6. This one.
This one backwards then. Jeez.
Number 6, right?
Just note the document in the book with the yellow page is 7 business, and that's where it belongs. The agenda shows it under bond. It's not technically bond,
Okay.
but we do have an action item for this.
Do you have it?
All right, so we're auditorium facility rental forms and rates. I got it.
Did that.
Oh, okay, cool.
You're done with this.
We're on this one. We're on this roof maintenance bid approval. Jesus.
Tonight, administration is recommending award a bid for district-wide annual roof preventive maintenance. In July, Detroit Roofing Inspection Services, Lakeview's consultant, conducted their annual preventive maintenance inspection at all buildings within the district. Provided a written report of the findings, and administration directed the company to create a bid spec for the recommended repairs and solicit bids on behalf of the district. The repair specifications were also advertised, and bidders were solicited as law and district policy requires. Ultimately, 3 contractors submitted bid for the proposed work. CEI submitted the bid overall, low amount for the base bid maintenance at $31,700 and is being recommended for award of contract. CEI has done work with Detroit Roofing Inspection Services in the past on several projects outside the district and has worked for LPS on multiple occasions in the past. DRIS feels confident that CEI can complete the project within the specifications and meet all warranty requirements. Therefore, administration is recommending the board approve award a contract to CEI for base bid maintenance at a total amount of $31,700 for district-wide roof preventive maintenance and repairs.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the contract for CEI in the amount of $31,700 for the district-wide roof preventative maintenance repairs.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion.
Yes, the roof maintenance has worked well for us over the course of the last several years and saved us money, extending the life of our roofs, saving us money so that we can put that money elsewhere.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, seeing no more business before this board, I make the motion to adjourn.
Support. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Mr. Ashu to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:51.